This call the Common Council meeting for May 7th to order has been appropriately noticed.
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Alderman Rogers?
Here.
Alderman Rozak? Alderman Shaw?
Here.
Alderman Ellis?
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Here.
Alderman Zwarth?
Here.
Alderman Stray?
Aye.
Alderman Kabieski?
Here.
First item is approval of meeting minutes for April 2nd. There was no council meeting, so
Right.
there is no approval required. Without objection, I'd like to move up one of the proclamations that I'm going to read tonight to the beginning here. Person that may not be available later on, so I want to read it now. Objection? Okay, this is the proclamation proclaiming Mental Health Awareness Week proclamation. So let me just read that for you quick. Whereas mental health affects 1 in 4 people worldwide and at some point in life and touches all ages, genders, races, and nationalities in every community. And whereas the month of May is recognized nationally as Mental Health Awareness Month, and the City of Oconomowoc recognizes this awareness effort along with its citizens, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in the community. And whereas Rogers Memorial Hospital, Pro Healthcare Oconomowoc Memorial Hospital, Aurora Medical Center Summit, SOFA, the Ladders Recovery Community, and American Legion Post 91 are all institutions that support aspects of mental health in our area. And whereas effective methods for reducing the stigma and isolation associated with mental illness are accomplished by building awareness and understanding of mental illness, increasing access to treatment, and ensuring families who are struggling know that they are not alone in their journeys. And whereas on Wednesday, May 15th, from 5 p.m. to dusk, events will be held to promote awareness at the 5th annual SOFA Jump for Archie at Oconomowoc City Beach, which involves a series of jumps into Lake LaBelle, including mental health workers who wish to honor Archie and others who struggle with mental health issues. Now therefore, I, David Nold, Mayor of the City of Oconomowoc, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2019 as Mental Health Awareness Month, to recognize those individuals that struggle with mental health and those organizations who are dedicated to raising awareness and treating mental health issues. Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to regular business. First item is comments and suggestions from citizens. This is a area of the meeting where you can make comments on any item. The only requirement is that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and don't repeat what somebody else has said on that given subject. So if you haven't filled out a card yet, fill out a card, hand it to the clerk, but I'll just call these in random order and on different subjects. So Cortland Orr.
Good evening. I'm speaking about regarding the Thackeray Trail extension. My wife and I recently relocated to Oconomowoc, and while we have certainly been happy with this change, I must say recently becoming aware of this project and doing a bit of research into it has raised concerns in my mind regarding the decision-making of the leadership of the city. My concern is that money is being spent to construct a road of questionable necessity when so many existing roads are in need of repair. It appears to me, in this particular case, money is being sent to add traffic to a road that isn't even fit to safely support its current usage. I realize no one here was involved in the original design of Thackeray Trail, but that road was designed very poorly to begin with. What's even worse is that much more problematic to me is that it's terribly unsafe for pedestrians who must occupy the same lane of travel as vehicles. And it appears that far more pedestrians use this road than just the residents in the area. Even further, a portion of this road is barely suitable for the traffic currently using it. And yet, with all these issues, you actually want to increase traffic on this road. And that, with new traffic basically using this as a shortcut, speeding concerns become very, very serious, in my opinion. In closing, I will just say that while I would like to think the Oconomowoc City government has the best interest of my new city and its citizens in mind, this project makes me strongly question the judgment of said government, and this project shows me at the very least poor judgment, if not a concerning level of irresponsibility and even recklessness. Thank you for your time.
Dennis Igler.
My name is Dennis Iglar. I live at 764 Thackeray Trail with my wife Maureen. We are 46-year residents of Oconomowoc and 43 years on Thackeray Trail. During that time that we've been there, we've seen this whole project looked into in the past, and I think as other councils have done in the past, they find that it is not just a simple extension of Thackeray Trail. It becomes much more complicated, and we've heard it all before over and over regarding safety, but there's traffic, what to do with the water, what to, the safety for the pedestrians. The kids from the high school are running on the street all the time. I want to thank all of you for all this service you do for the city in your participation as an alderman and lady. And what you want to do the most is to do what's best and best for your constituents. And I think rejecting this project and many of the concerns, as the previous gentleman mentioned, this is not needed. This is not needed. Thackeray Trail needs to be improved, but the through pass, the over the swamp area just does not need to be done. So I'd encourage you to vote no. Thank you.
Okay. Lynn.
Good evening, Lynn Stahl, 212 Pine Street. In light of the Verizon 2 cell tower application for the 2 cell towers and the infrastructure that they're indicating in their application, as well as the infrastructure that we can see with AT&T's fiber lines, I would ask that, or invite you not to wait, if indeed there is going to be a technology committee, but to be proactive in 3 specific ordinances in 3 specific areas. One that would protect our data as well as the privacy of our data. So right now, I just think of our homes kind of like as our castle, a sacred place that we come home to, that we can nourish ourselves and people that we love. And with the infrastructure that's being laid out right now with the 5G, this will include microchips in every product that we purchase. So not only your devices, but also all of the smart appliances. And when you go into a store, every product. In fact, they're already putting microchips in pills to decide whether somebody has taken them or not. They're putting them in diapers so that a parent can get a message on their smartphone that their child's diaper has been soiled. It's to that extent. So these microchips then will be actually trackable to your home. And that will be done through the smart meters that are on our home from We Energy. And We Energy has already put up their data discs on our light posts throughout the city. And those will, just the one that I've been able to see, so this is just hearsay, is connected to what potentially would be an AT&T 5G system. So it's a connecting system that is going to connect all of these data of these products that are coming into our home, and virtually the privacy that we now enjoy but is eroding quickly will erode completely. And so I know Europe is trying to be more aggressive in this area. Of course, in the States, I'm pro-business also. I appreciate business, but also businesses running this in that direction. So I'm just asking you to take some look at this as a possibility of what can we do to protect our data. And even if something slips through the cracks with a wireless company or a utility company, at least you've got something in place that are guidelines that are established. And then number two, the cybersecurity identifying guidelines. So in, let's see, 2018, I just want to get this number straight, 1.4 billion breaches of privacy, of personal data was breached in just 2018 alone. As you may know, that with wireless infrastructure versus a wired, it's much easier to hack this system, and people will get smarter and smarter at doing that. And in fact, right now, the way the system is set up with the smart meters, they can even go down the street and find out if you're home or not. With the whole grid in place, that will escalate. And so just having some sort of cybersecurity policy might be a good idea. And then the third thing is to ban facial recognition programs. San Francisco and Oakland are taking a lead on this, but our children particularly are going to be affected. There are programs right now that they're saying that the benefit is that they can see whether a child's engaged with educational material or not, and this is not appropriate. For a camera to be watching a child and profiling it. And it's not appropriate for our residents to feel that they're profiled and that security cameras are doing facial recognition programs. So I just would ask that that could be looked at. And if you need more information on it or how it could, what I've researched on how it could be structured, I'd be glad to provide that. So thank you.
Thank you. Christy Thwaites.
Good evening, and thank you for listening to me for these few minutes. I've been a resident at 1270 Blue Dahlia Road for about 22 years now, raised 5 children, and we're raising a grandson, so he's now getting to grow up in this wonderful city that we call Oconomowoc. My concern is driving around the city, it still gives me chills to be able to view the lakes and the beautiful scenery that we do have. But now with all of these condos going up, it is really taking away from that, from those of us who probably won't be able to afford to live in these condos. I lose sleep over a lot of things. It's not your fault. This is one thing that has been bothering me. I'm not always one to speak up about things, but this has really been weighing on me. I just really urge you to think about all of this building that's going on, all of the changes with redoing all these roads, maybe fix the roads that are really broken, where my grandson can hardly, you want to ride a bike, fix the roads with the big potholes in it. He goes to Nature Hill Elementary and there's huge potholes. Maybe think about fixing what needs to be fixed instead of thinking about rebuilding this whole community where we can all adapt to change. We know change is needed and relevant at some times, but there are times where things just need to stop. And I just urge you to just look at this beautiful city we live in. And all of these people here who have lived here much longer than I have and who have made this city really what it is. And I just urge you to really think about that, and I really thank you for listening to me. I might sleep better a little tonight, so thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, is it Roth? Okay.
Thank you. I live at 689 Thackeray Trail. I live at the house at the end of Thackeray Trail, right next to the park. So according to the Thackeray Trail Street Extension document handed out at the January 28th meeting with the DNR, the project purpose The proposed street extension will increase vehicular safety and improve traffic flows in the surrounding areas of the city. This connection will provide a more direct, quicker route for emergency response personnel to respond to incidents in the city out of the Western Lakes Fire Department, Paps Farms Fire Station. The new route will shorten emergency vehicle response times for fire, police, and ambulance calls, creating a safer environment for all citizens. The long-term goal of this project is to provide options for emergency response vehicles, improve flooding on the west end of the street, and diversity for traffic in the area. This project will also provide a multi-use recreational trail for pedestrians and bicyclists between the Whitman Hills, Whitman Park neighborhoods, and Silver Lake Street. Being a very logical and factual thinker, I'm struggling to understand the city's project purpose, and I'd like you to consider the following. Sentence 1 in the Thackeray Trail Extension document, project purpose section states, the proposed street extension will increase vehicular safety and improve traffic flows in the surrounding areas of the city. According to the map, I mapped this out, there are 26 residential driveways on Thackeray Trail. In order for residents to access their driveways on Thackeray Trail, depending on the direction they're coming from, they will have to slow down and perform a U-turn. This would disrupt traffic. In addition, all 26 residential driveways will have cars, most have multiple cars per residence, backing out into traffic on Thackeray Trail to leave their homes. With the increased traffic expected, this will not be safe. In addition, Thackeray Trail has 4 roads that intersect with it. Sentence 2 in the Thackeray Trail Extension document states, this connection will provide a more direct, quicker route for emergency response personnel. Based on the mileage, and I did a little GMAP pedometer to go through the wetlands, it will be 0.4 miles shorter for the emergency vehicles if we extended Thackeray Trail. Again, keeping in mind that the emergency vehicles if they take Thackeray Trail, they will have 26 driveways to watch out for, all the children to watch out for, 4 intersecting roads, walking, biking, kids, etc. Would this really be the fastest route, as they will need to slow down for the driveways and intersections, especially if the city adds roundabouts or stop signs, as have been mentioned? Almost done. Sentence 3 in the Thackeray Trail document states that the new route will shorten emergency vehicle response times for fire, police, and ambulance calls, creating a safer environment for all citizens. This is the sentence I struggle with the most. I've mentioned the emergency vehicle route, saving 0.4 miles and maybe taking a little bit longer due to the driveways and intersections. I struggle with creating a safer environment for all citizens. There are multiple kids from Thackeray Trail neighborhood and from the neighborhood across Summit Avenue who walk to and from school every day. They walk up Thackeray Trail and take the path to the high school. With the extension, the kids from the neighborhood across St. Jerome will also be walking up Thackeray Trail to school. There are 4 bus stops, as I stated. Remember, there are no sidewalks on Thackeray Trail. If the city is to extend the road, there will be more traffic. The city also mentioned that it will help with the congestion of the kids driving to the high school. The plan is not to add another entrance to the high school, but to move some of the congestion from one intersection to another. So not only will there be more traffic during the time when kids are walking, a lot of those drivers will be high school students driving up and down Thackeray Trail. Elementary school kids will also be walking on the street shortly before 8 a.m. when it's busy traffic time, people going to work. It will go past St. Jerome's playground where there's kids playing. The kids will be going from a quiet playground on a dead-end road to having a road go through with additional traffic. Let's also keep in mind that the kids that walk to school from St. Jerome's also. There's also no parking for people that visit Whitman Park, and a lot of people visit Little Whitman Park. It's great. I don't know what's going to happen with the people that are going to be visiting now if they can't park on the side of the road. There are no plans for adding parking. And as stated in the meeting, the city plans to make the extension a smaller two-way road to naturally slow down traffic as it goes from the boulevard. Using this logic, I would think the opposite when going from a small two-lane road to the boulevard. They're going to speed up right past the park. Multiple times during fall and spring, there's traffic on Thackeray Trail to use the high school path to go to and from football and soccer games. These people also park on Thackeray Trail and walk up and down Thackeray Trail. It just doesn't seem that it's making it safer for the citizens. I understand why some people may think this extension is a good idea, but if you look at the facts and consider the overall impact, you should all understand why this road should not be extended. Thank you.
Thank you. I do urge people to try to keep it to 3 minutes. Chris? You can say it. Bogacheski.
Hi, my name is Chris Boguszewski, and I live with my wife and kids at 839 Thackeray Trail. I'm here tonight to voice some of my serious concerns with regards to the current plans for Thackeray Trail extension. About a year ago, I heard that the extension was going to be on the city's agenda again. Initially, I was adamantly opposed to it. Over time, I can see how it may benefit some of our community with proper planning. However, this is not what I've seen with regards to the current proposal. The one issue that seems to be addressed is the so-called connectivity of the city that I repeatedly hear from some of our city officials. I can see some of the benefit, but at what cost? I believe one of those very serious costs is safety. Not only the safety of those who live in Whitman Park, but a large portion of our community. Daily, there is a considerable contingent of students from Oconomowoc High School who use Thackeray Trail as a place to train and run. Having a daughter at the high school, I've seen that athletes are not the only students that use Thackeray Trail as pedestrians. She is in the drama department, and a lot of those kids, along with many others in a variety of other clubs, also use it before and after school to get to the Whitman Park Shopping Center and to their homes. Then we have St. Jerome's Parish School. As of now, it's safely nestled on a dead-end road. Extending Thackeray Trail would seriously change the security and shelter they currently enjoy. In addition, we will be creating a new dangerous intersection at Silver Lake and Thackeray Trail that will be frequented by many kids traversing to and from school. Yes, the current proposal may increase connectivity, but it will also decrease the safety of our community and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Joy Gaskin?
Good evening. My name is Joy Gaskin. I live at 741 Thackeray Trail with my husband, Tony, who can't be here tonight, unfortunately. He's out with work on traveling. And I live with my son, Sam Gaskin. He's a University of Madison student, and so he's home in the summers. And our two little grandchildren, Oscar, who's 10, and Charlie, who's 8. So we've got a wide range of ages at our home. We've also raised our other 3 kids who are now adults. So we've been here for probably almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years this summer. And we've heard the up and down of Thackeray Trail. You know, this poor horse has been beat and woken back up, and beat and woken back up, and we continue to do that tonight. I knew I couldn't get a PowerPoint presentation up tonight, so at risk of looking like I'm on the Newlywed Show, I've got some cards here. And I just thought I would do something that was just objective. No emotion, okay? And what I did was I compared Thackeray Trail to Oconomowoc Parkway. And I know we're not selling Oconomowoc Parkway tonight, but I just want to show a glaring difference between what a residential place made into a thoroughfare looks like and what an actual thoroughfare should look like and how it can handle these kind of traffics. So first of all, we've already talked about this. We've talked about the Thackeray Trail side, 26 driveways. We all know that's terrible. That's not gonna work. Oconomowoc Parkway has only 4 residential driveways, and they're actually far down. They're not by the intersection. The residential driveways on Thackeray Trail start quite right after 888 Thackeray. So they're right in the mix of it down there. School bus stops, so Oconomowoc Parkway has 0. Thackeray Trail has 4 bus stops, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon on each one of them, plus a 4K bus that goes through at 11:30. That's a busy bus route. And if we think this is gonna be a faster route, when you're sitting behind those red flashing lights, that's not gonna be quick. And then we've got commercial entrances. Oconomowoc Parkway has 6. It's a parkway. It's set up for commercial. All those commercials are on the right side of the street. Thackeray Trail has only 4, and all of those 4, and these are the entrances to them. Thackeray Trail has 4, 2 for 888 Thackeray and 2 for the Walgreens, the main Walgreens, and then the back of Walgreens where you come out the pharmacy. That is a mess down there. It already is a mess. And we're just gonna add to that, unless there's some real restructuring that's gonna go on at that traffic light. Now, what I understand, and I'm not claiming to know a lot of things, it sounds to me like the extension's going through, and then we're gonna go backwards and fix other problems. This, I can guarantee you, is gonna be a problem. It's dangerous, it doesn't function. Cross streets, Thackeray Trail has 6 of them, 6 off streets that go through. That's residential. Oconomowoc Parkway has 4, but they're off of, only 2 of them are real residential. So again, it doesn't play out like a residential neighborhood. It plays out like a parkway, a thoroughfare. Curbs, I drove down here today. We all know Thackeray. We all know what it looks like. We all have talked about it for months. Oconomowoc Parkway is 100% curbed. Even the middle boulevard, the grass median, curbed. And several spots along that median, there's turnout spots where you can turn around, you can cross the street. It's just gonna be a mess. So right now on Thackeray Trail, if you're walking down that street, there's nowhere to go off if a car gets too close to you. And God forbid you're walking in front of my house, because if you've got to step off to get away from a car, you're gonna go down 5 feet. It's very unforgiving. So anyways, there's just no forgiveness on Thackeray Trail right now for that. Bike and walking trails. Oconomowoc Parkway has a beautiful one. The whole length of Oconomowoc Parkway. Thackeray Trail, nothing. Functional, safe stoplights. Oconomowoc Trail has a great one right by the Quick Trip. Green arrow if you want to turn left from both ways, from Summit Credit Union, from the Steins. Thackeray Trail, for one, you never get a green arrow. If you're going onto Summit from Thackeray or from Old Tower, you only get a yellow flashing light. That is a way busier intersection than Oconomowoc Parkway with Whitman Park there. And if you're turning onto Thackeray from Summit, there's not even 2 lanes. People are turning into Walgreens, and whoever's not going to Walgreens is going around the right side of the person going to Walgreens. It doesn't even function right now. Potholes. Oconomowoc Parkway has none. Thackeray Trail, too many to count. And finally, because I don't know that there's been a safety study. I'm sure there has, and I just don't know. I did my own today. I went to McDonald's and I got a big Diet Coke, and I sat outside Stein's for an hour, and I counted. And I counted 2 walkers and 1 biker going past. They were both they were all on the bike trail. Nobody was on the road. I sat in front of my home, which is right on the corner of Whittier and Thackeray, and I did not look up this way, and I didn't look down that way for other people. I sat right in front of my house, and there were 10 walkers. One of those walkers was a little girl, maybe 3 or 4, walking with her dad, and she was pulling a little wagon. It was super cute, but you can only imagine what that's gonna be. There's 1 biker, and 3 of the walkers had dogs, so there's 3 dogs. Those were all in the road. They had nowhere to go but the road. And so I'm not gonna keep beating this dead horse. We've all talked about this, but there is one thing that I have not heard anyone talk about, and I just wanna plant the seed in your head, is when this goes through, if and when, and those kids are on the other side of Silver Lake, There's a lot of young kids that live back there by Shoal Ridge, and my 10-year-old grandson has the friends back there. We do the birthday parties. They go to the friend's house and they take the bike trail down to Imagination Station. When those same friends want to come and pick up my grandson on Thackeray Trail and head down to Chocolate Factory on their bikes, how are they going to cross Silver Lake Street? Right at St. Jerome's there. That hasn't really been brought up. That's going to be a terrible crossing for kids. We're going to need a crosswalk. There's going to need to be yellow flashing lights, something. Because that's a school zone right there too. So we do have to slow down for school when it's in session. So we got to make sure we're taking care of kids that live on that side. We've only focused on Thackeray Trail kids. And also to mention this, there are 2 schools that are on Thackeray Trail, and Oconomowoc Parkway has no schools. So it's pretty clear that Thackeray Trail is not built to be a thoroughfare. Maybe 40 years, that was the plan, but it doesn't apply anymore. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Teresa
Teresa Altrider. I live at
Altrider.
836 Thackeray Trail. First of all, I would like to thank the Common Council and the mayor for your time and energy they have dedicated to making Oconomowoc great. I can relate to all of you here today, as my mother was mayor in the community that I grew up in. She often would tell me she would sleep well at night, knowing that she would listen to the community. And sometimes there were items that were brought up to her attention and the council that they may have been unaware of. Therefore, we're hoping that you will all be listening to our pleas tonight regarding the extension of Thackeray Trail. We have major concerns. First of all, the infrastructure that with the support of Thackeray Trail. On an already deteriorating road, are they even going to be able to extend Thackeray Trail? It's fallen apart this winter. We have, the road has dropped 3 feet on one side. There's a hole. I encourage every one of you to go down to Thackeray Trail and look at the road, the real road itself. It's horrible. Second, when the master plan was created in the 1950s, there was not a real foresight of the 3 schools being there. They will be affecting the extension of Thackeray Trail. This is creating a safety issue for the entire community, kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, friends, children, all walking up and down the road with a straightaway. That road from Silver Lake to now Summit Avenue. A straight road, one bend. We would want to make sure the community is safe, and of course, our children and residents that use the roadway. At any given time, you can see the high school students walking up and down, utilizing the common businesses at Whitman Park, supporting our community. And my concern is that something will happen with one careless driver driving too fast down that road. Do we really want emergency vehicles traveling down at a high rate of speed, higher than normal during a flood? I call it a flood because that's what it has represented to us on Thackeray. This is the reason we have expressed for the there was a near hydroplane incident that occurred in our subdivision during one of these flash floods. In closing, I hope that each and every one of you do not rush this extension through for the sole sake of having a road connection. Is that really the best and safest route for the emergency vehicles? Does this make sense that there have been no safety studies done? Is this really in the best interest of our community? Thank you very much for your time.
Brian Paulson.
Hello, my name is Brian Paulson. I felt like I was just here, but I just wanted to just say a couple words. I didn't have much time to prepare here tonight, but you know, kind of bothersome to me. I've heard all these rumors of like there's this new plan coming out. They're going to barricade the road. The project's not going to go through. Things like that, just so it's a little more safe. Well, I don't think any of the citizens of Oconomowoc have seen that new plan. This is a democracy. I feel like it's kind of being snuck around just so the mayor can get his nice little extension going to his neighborhood. So that's one thing that kind of frustrated me from a democracy point of view. But the other question I had is, this is a very expensive project. If you do all of Thackeray Trail, the extension, are we gonna have people are gonna vote for it in a year or whenever you gotta vote to do the rest of that road? I have this huge concern this extension's gonna be built and you'll see the next price tag and you'll vote no. Well, now you have to deal with all these safety issues again. That road is just not safe. And then finally, a couple of other items. I would recommend that you just rescind the letter of necessity. Stop. If you're gonna do it, let's just reboot it and do it right. Vote for the whole entire project. Make it right. What you have now is not a complete plan by any means. It just doesn't get us there for community-wise, for the neighborhood. Getting a little off tangent too, I look at the long-term neighborhood, and Whitman Park is a nice little pocket neighborhood. If someday crime comes to Oconomowoc, I hope it never does, but those little pocket neighborhoods really protect against crime. There's a lot of stuff gonna be built around that area, and I think that neighborhood can be a nice cornerstone for that entire area there. Neighborhoods matter, and if that street comes through, part of that neighborhood's gonna be taken care or gotten rid of. The other question I had, it was last minute, but I tried to talk to the safety officer. I didn't really give him time, but I assume with all the kids coming out there, I know 20 walked by my house just in that 1 hour period. It was a nice day out, but that's gotta be a school zone, I would think. So there's gonna have to be a 15-mile-an-hour sign there on Thackeray Trail as well. So I assume, I don't know, does it go an hour before, hour after school? I guess whenever kids are present, which is all the time if they're playing on the field. So it's gonna be a school zone during rush hour. Is that really a good extension, a good thoroughfare? So that's all I had to say tonight. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Pete Holmes?
Good comment there, I know.
Good evening. My name is Pete Holmes. I live over on Shore Circle off Oconomowoc Parkway. In front of my alderman's desk, I provided some documentation regarding the issue we're dealing with on Oconomowoc Parkway. And I know there's a lot of good things going on here tonight with you folks on Thackeray Trail. And the one word that I keep hearing about, and I heard it from the school board, and I've heard it from a number of other different avenues, is we always just like to use the word safety. This word safety. It's going to be safer if we do this. It's going to be safer if we do that. And yet all of these people over on Thackeray Trail, I've been down your street, by the way. That's garbage. I don't know why you, I can't believe that they would extend that. Is Silver Lake some sort of a major highway that we're gonna make out of Oconomowoc? I just don't get it. Because I'm dealing with, well, I was when a while back, when Oconomowoc tried to extend Oconomowoc Parkway, and I shut that down. And the reason I did that is because the county wanted to increase the speed limit to 45 miles an hour, and these folks wanted the county to pay for it. That's why the county was going to try and extend it. If it goes up, we're gonna raise the speed limit to 45. And I stopped that. I don't get where we're going with this. I've got school buses now coming down Oconomowoc Parkway that's been designated by Mr. Fry's office as being a 2-lane road, one in each direction, separated by a boulevard. That's according to the State of Wisconsin Department of Transportation. And I can't get lines on the street to indicate that. But I got 15 buses coming up one way and down the other time for 1/2 hour of every day, and then in the afternoon. I don't like being ignored by Mr. Fry when I give him suggestions on how to pay for a bike lane that now would mix with the Lake Country Trail. The school board can help pay for that because they're gonna save $5,000 by pushing buses down my street. I provided these folks an alternative to a lot of things. 6 weeks ago, did you know that the principal or the school superintendent rerouted traffic through my neighborhood. He just said, we're just going to go ahead and do it. He didn't check with these folks. And you'll find my presentation that I gave to the school board in there, and it's online as well. I think what some of these folks are probably going to say tonight are, we don't need this extension of Thackeray Trail. We don't need the extension of Oconomowoc Parkway. I think we're fine the way we are, or we've got to find a better way of doing it, because it doesn't sound like either one of these roadways is going to happen. So I would ask you to start doing your jobs and corresponding with your constituents and stop ignoring us, all right? I've spent a lot of time on emails and letters and documentation. Show me some courtesy and do the same thing. Thank you.
Jim Welch?
Hi, my name is Jim Welch. I live in Summit. I used to live on Bolson Drive, and so I kind of know how busy that could get, because people use that as a cut-through, and they had to cut through the high school to get there. And I don't know if there's going to be a connection between those high school roads and the Thackeray Trail thing, but I think that would be yet another way for more people to cut through the high school and use those roads, which are kind of reserved for student traffic and walking traffic for the students. But I only recently discovered Thackeray Trail. I've been to Walgreens 100 times, but as a little walking area. And like everyone said, it's not really easy to walk down. I would just walk down the median. But I discovered on my first walk just what a great, pleasant, quiet neighborhood that is. And I don't know anyone who lives there. Just first time walking down there was so pleasant. And a couple times I would see residents of that street, getting their mail or whatever, and I wanted to jump over there and say, God, what a great neighborhood you have, but I didn't want, that seemed a little strange, so I'm glad I didn't. But I think one thing that just has, hit me more than anything else is that some people just get lucky and get into great, wonderful, quiet neighborhoods. And just once I'd like to see that respected as, just, everyone else seems to have all these statistics and well thought out, testimony here, but I just go on like what I've seen in the 10 times I've walked up and down that street, just how great their neighborhood is. And just once maybe a neighborhood like that could exist, like in those little pocket neighborhoods that we talk about. And it seems like there's gonna be, people have to back out onto busy streets all the time, but there are a lot of kids going up and down with that park there. I used to live on, let's see, and one of the things that also has bothered me too, and because it happens so easily, is just the waivers you get on wetlands. And I know that's not a big wetland down there, but it's like still an ecosystem that maybe could be respected. And so I think that'll just get, I don't know what they would do to mitigate it, but I assume it would be pretty easy to get that waiver. Let me check my notes real quick. Yeah, I guess that's it, but I just really hope for the best for the neighbors, my new neighbors, I guess, from walking down the street, but it just seems like a great neighborhood to preserve. So thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Cron?
Good evening. Seems like I was just here. Isn't this like deja vu? 3 weeks ago, we were here talking, and I want to thank specifically Alderman Rogers, Alderman Rozak, who's not here, Alderman Shaw, Alderman Ellis, and Alderman Stray for your vote not to purchase the land over at Paganaga. I also want to thank Alderman Spiegelberg and Alderman Kowieski for reaching out and speaking very candidly to say that they're hearing what we're saying. And I think that needs to be recognized. Alderman Zwart, sorry, we haven't had a chance to talk. As I sat on Wednesday after I got the news that, hey, we're back at it again, I started to look at things a little differently. I started to think about the vote that happened 3 weeks ago and what that really said. Today, that a similar vote, for lack of a better term, I believe will take place in Section 8, Old Finished Business, letter A. What does it mean to purchase that section of land? After sitting there and talking with my neighbors, and we've packed the house again tonight, what we realized was from the DNR hearing, the amount of land that you're purchasing limits that section of road. By voting yes to that section of road, you are saying, we're okay with that plan. And through our conversations, I know we are not okay with the current plan. The reason why is very specific. With that purchase of land, we get the bare minimum. There is no wiggle room to make the road better, wider, if need be, shoulders, those adjustments that may occur. And I fear we're gonna paint ourselves into a corner. Furthermore, we might tie our hands with the DNR. And we already have that DNR okay with that, with as is. However, if we need to get more land, what is that going to mean? How will that go? And will they say, well, you already got what you needed? Then you're going back on your promise to us, your constituents. And that is one thing that I know universally has been clear. You promised if this goes through, you're gonna do it right. I'm going to ask you to think long and hard before voting on A, because the implications are huge. You just can't put it in your back pocket and say, oh, we'll get to it in 3 years. Because truly, it was not engineered. And if you go back and listen to the DNR Rupert-Milke presentation, it was not engineered as an entire project. It was engineered as an extension, 2 lanes, very, very small side pieces. We don't have that kind of wiggle room, so I'm going to ask you to think about that. Furthermore, you know I've always talked about it as a full plan. I don't want to repeat myself. You're going to say, I'm not going to listen to her anymore. But what I do want to say is this. We want to do things right in Oconomowoc. We want to keep our promises. 11 years ago, Nature Hill came through. It's over in District 1. We were promised sidewalks to make sure our kids could get there safe. I will tell you, kids, as much as we say go across the street, have to go to the end of the road, across the street, and back to go through a subdivision when they would rather take Lapham Road. I sat here, I watched, and unfortunately most of you were not alder people at the time. We were promised those sidewalks would go in. Lake Bluff Drive, which goes in front of Nature Hill School, is another road that's on here. It's going to become another busy intersection. The promises 10 years ago were not kept to take care of that. Sidewalks were not put in over in the flower streets. Our kids are still walking over there. As was stated by several others, we need to keep those of us who are the most vulnerable the safest, because they don't have a voice. We as adults, we need to stand up for them. And at this point in time, we have promises not kept. And I would say, if you vote for this, I'm asking you right now to keep that promise. The promise to stay on here, to stay on this committee, to make the hard decisions, to say, you know what, if this costs $10 million, I'm sorry, District 1, District 2, but District 3 and District 4, we need to sink the money into the road construction over there. And that's not going to be a popular decision with your constituents, because we know that fixes, long-term, good quality fixes, are neither cheap nor easy. Now, I don't envy you tonight. These decisions ahead of you are not easy. However, you are sitting before us able to make a new Oconomowoc. So I remind you, first of all, don't paint yourself into a corner. If you want it done right, get the right amount of engineering, the right amount of land to do it the right way. If you choose to say that we're going to go forward, then please make sure that you keep those promises and you are here till the end, and that we are safe, we are protected, And we get what we have been talking about through this entire plan, because we have lived through and been held hostage up to this point, because they're like, oh, when the trail goes through, we'll fix your road. We can't live like that anymore. It's not safe, it's not fair, and it's not right. So please consider that tonight, and I urge you to vote no on letter A, and to vote yes to rescind, to take the time to do this correctly, to make sure everything is where it needs to be. Thank you very much.
Carl Duke?
Thank you. I live at 1001 Keats Circle, and although not directly on Thackeray Trail, I see every day the decrepit condition of that situation, and I don't think I heard anyone talk that that's a good situation. I mean, even today, no rain, it's still like a swamp all the way up to the Walgreens. So it needs attention. Thackeray Trail has to be redone. I have property papers from the 60s that show that Thackeray Trail was to be guaranteed access to that area. We aren't keeping those plans in mind. There has to be a thoroughfare. There are 3 institutions in that little quadrant, the high school, the hospital, and St. Jerome's Parish, that need access to all of those areas that Thackeray Trail should go through. And it's 60-some years that was laid out and was spoken to be preserved. We need to carry that out. It's long overdue. I know that I may not have that many more years to live, but I like to think that we're going to pay forward. There are people that did things for me as I was growing up. I think we need to do this for the city of Oconomowoc and do it right. And I have confidence in the mayor and the alderman to take charge and to plan that street so that it goes through properly, safely, and takes care of the decrepit conditions that are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Roker?
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Roker. I reside at 970 Chesterton Court. Like the last speaker, I am not a resident directly on Thackeray, but we sure utilize that street a lot in terms of walking, and I truly appreciate all my neighbors' efforts who do live along Thackeray and who live elsewhere in our neighborhood for their tenacity in pushing forward their position on this issue. I'm somewhat late to the game in terms of this is my first public appearance before this body to talk about the Thackeray Trail extension. I have been monitoring the goings on and so forth, but I felt it was important enough to take the time and be here tonight. And also I have my daughter with me so she can get a great lesson about what it is that our local government does and how you always act or should be acting in our best interest. I fully support the previous comments that have been made in opposition to extending Thackeray Trail, so I certainly won't go through those. I'd like to focus briefly on some data. I was previously Chief Legal Counsel for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and I was also a former Plan Commissioner in the city of Waukesha for several years. So in those 2 roles, even though I'm not here in any sort of official capacity, I understand and appreciate all of the work that has gone into this project, all of the time, all of the talents, all of the planning, all of the resources. And I also understand that master plans had previously been prepared. The speaker just before me referenced a 60-year-old plan. That's why they're called plans. Things change. And even when we have data that is completed in within several years, that data can change. And from my perspective and my review of these issues, I think the data, the current data, actually supports not extending Thackeray Trail. The speaker who had the newlywed game cards was fantastic because it's a great illustration for all of us who may not be professional engineers or civil engineers to understand all of that complex data and the data inputs that goes into the plans that then spurred out what the professional recommendations are from a planning standpoint. So I encourage you to look at the actual reality of what is happening in that neighborhood. And again, the realistic presentation and illustrations of that complex planning data, again, as illustrated by the newlywed game cards. Just briefly, I want to touch on the access issue. Thought it was very interesting regarding the 26 driveways along Thackeray. One of the things that I've experienced a great deal in my career were issues of loss of resident access or business access. And given that there are 26 driveways along Thackeray, it's not intended that those access points or those driveways are going to close. However, if traffic gets bad enough, there could be deemed a loss of reasonable access. That in turn is going to cost the city and the taxpayers a lot of money to compensate for any sort of reasonable loss of access. So again, because I'm late to the party, that issue may have already been considered, but it was something that I thought was important enough to bring up today, because I certainly wouldn't want to see folks lose access, and I certainly wouldn't want to see the city have to pay those additional compensation for that loss of reasonable access, which is legally required. So in short, again, I do not support the extension of Thackeray Trail, and I encourage you to vote accordingly this evening. And again, thank you for your time, and I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. That's all the cards I have. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak? Come on up. Just state your name and she'll write it down.
Tom Deppes, and 805 Thackeray Trail. Tonight, I'd like to read the words of my neighbor, Allison Tierney, who lives at 820 Thackeray Trail, who could not be here tonight. I also agree with the words I'm about to read to you. To begin, I would like to thank the City Council, who voted against the consideration to act on the purchase of a portion of land near Thackeray Trail just 3 weeks ago. As you know, for several years, the neighbors of Whitman Park have been against the extension for multiple reasons. We believe it is important for the city and members of the Common Council to continue to consider multiple aspects of this project, including the infrastructure and time frame. As we have reviewed time and time again, the current infrastructure of existing Thackeray Trail cannot handle the current traffic flow, let alone the increased traffic that will occur if the extension of Thackeray Trail is completed. Important items we ask you to consider. The existing road is already crumbling, you've heard that, even in parts of the road that would not be redone with the current plans for the extension. Water floods the streets after even moderate rainfalls, and an ambulance hydroplaned just a few weeks ago. Shouldn't a thoroughfare through a town exist without blind curves, such as the case with Thackeray Trail? Most Thackeray Trail homeowners do not even use the Thackeray Trail Summit Avenue intersection due to traffic congestion and use Lexington Drive Summit Avenue instead. What does that say to you about the current traffic flow? Does the city have a solution for these intersections? Although there are several other considerations that need to be made, by purchasing the land from Par Inc., this sets up Thackeray Trail to be extended, despite the lack of readiness from existing Thackeray Trail and its homes to handle the change. Although this may be part of Oconomoc's master plan, this neighborhood and road was not built to handle such a change. As for the time frame of this project, it appears rushed without traffic, water flow, and other studies that are necessary to have a true understanding of how existing Thackeray Trail will be affected, and not only for the residents who currently live here, but for the entire city. As a small business owner, just like some of the council members, and even among the careers of all council members. Extending Thackeray Trail without sufficient studies and a very detailed plan in place, extending Thackeray Trail is equivalent to launching a new product without studying the market. Those products usually fail. Starting a new business without a business plan. No bank would give you a loan for that business. For these reasons related to the infrastructure and the time frame of this project and the other issues my neighbors have brought forth tonight, we ask the members to vote nay against the consideration to acquire land from PAR Inc., and if needed, to vote nay against awarding a contract for the extension of Thackeray Trail. Thank you for your hard work for the entire city of Oconomowoc.
Thank you.
Hi, Shirley Deppes, 805 Thackeray Trail. I'm here to talk about money and Thackeray Trail. And during public meetings, Mayor Nold pointed out that most of the costs of the Thackeray Trail will be coming from fees imposed on developers. They're known as impact fees. He also stated that St. Jerome's Catholic Church has signed a contract to pay for what we understand is about half of the extension itself, the new extension. Further, it has been pointed out that the land needed for the extension for Thackeray Trail is owned by the city. So, these three factors make it very tempting tonight to go ahead with an extension. However, just because it's financially possible, it does not make it right. Tonight, you've heard many concerns of my neighbors, and I'd like to just focus on three: safety for pedestrians, which would include a sidewalk, water drainage, and roadbed. At the end of the last council meeting, Oconowoc's Director of Public Works, Mark Fry, got up and said, to fix those three things, we're talking millions of dollars. And those millions of dollars are for existing Thackeray Trail. They do not come from your impact fees or from your developers' fees. My question is, if you go ahead with the extension, you're going to need, if you care at all about your citizens, you're going to need to improve the existing road. So at what point do you do that? I know that you guys are elected on 2-year terms, I believe. And, you know, are you going to even be here when we have to attend the first funeral for a student walking down the street and getting hit by a car? You know, these are the things that come into my mind when I think about this. Historically, the roadbed that exists right now has not been improved since it was first constructed about 50 years ago. From Longfellow on down to the west side, west end of the street, the roadbed is a base coat, meaning that it really was not designed to be permanent. The aged ditches in front of our houses have been getting steeper and more rugged and required to handle more water than they were originally intended to. There has been no answers to these problems. we are only told that we should wait till the extension goes through to improve the road and the drainage system. Our quiet neighborhood has been held hostage to an unwanted thoroughfare. Now we hear that except for the west end of Thackeray Trail, there will be no improvements to the existing street. In addition, there will be no money available to put in sidewalks. This means a lot to our St. Jerome Elementary kids and our high school students who are going to be walking down a street with no sidewalks to and from school and heavy traffic with a lot of school buses going past them. I think that Oconomowoc needs to sit back, take a look at all of this again, make the necessary monetary sacrifices that it'll take to improve the road before it even begins to think about an extension. I urge you to vote so tonight. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to regular business. First item is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight, we have 4 items: licenses, a resolution granting a 6-month Class B license for Buddy's Beach Bungalow, and a couple of easement agreements. We need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Excuse me. Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Okay, under committee reports, Utility Committee, first item is consider act on a resolution awarding contracts for Pine Ridge Estates Wetland Scrape Project. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Kevin? Not you. That one, yeah.
Thank you. The Pine Ridge Scapes Wetland Scrapes Project is a conjunction project between the City of Oconomowoc, the Oconomowoc Watershed Protection Program, and DACAP and Fish and Wildlife Service. Just to give you an idea where it is, it's on between Highway Z and Lisbon Road. It's right along Roseno Creek that runs right here. The yellow spots are where the scrapes would be. Here's an aerial of it. Again, this is Roseno Creek running through the woodland here. The red circles are the 3 scrapes that we'd be putting in. We'll take the runoff that's going to that comes from this direction and flows so that it can't make it into the Roseno Creek. The gray lines that you see on here are the projected trails in the future. Again, this just shows you the direction of flow going into the wetland scrapes. This will be the seeding area, so everything from the edge of the woodlot up to the creek will all be seeded in native prairies, along with the scrapes that you guys can see in blue on the screen here. Scrapes are going to be in no special form. They'll be about 4 feet deep. It'll have a tapered edge on it so that when we plant the seedings and stuff, everything will be able to grow. Inside the scrape itself, they'll be putting tree limbs and stuff like that for any kind of aquatic animals or birds and stuff to sit on. This is basically what it's going to look like when it's done. And this is what it'll look like in the fall. We received bids on this project. City of Waukesha did all the bidding and design of the project. Because the project is on city-owned property, we have to sign the contracts in order to start the project. Wonder Construction was low bidder for the wetland scrapes at $44,270, and Cardinal Inc. was low for the native seeding at $35,570.
Any questions? Go ahead, Charlie.
No, I just have a comment. This is all part of the Oconomowoc Watershed Program where we're trying to reduce the phosphorus levels at the confluence, at the conjunction of the Oconomowoc River and the Rock River. And Rosenau Creek flows right into the Oconomowoc River through Lake LaBelle. And so this helps reduce phosphorus levels where we need them to be reduced per DNR
DNR code for the DAP
DNR
management
code
program, correct.
at that time. So I am in support of this project, and it does come in under budget.
Any other comments? I agree, I agree with you, Charlie. This is, by preventing the pollution before it gets to the lake, it's a lot easier to treat it than when it's there. So it's just good, it's good practice. And we've been doing this at a lot of places all up the watershed, so it's really been a good practice. Any other comments? Go ahead.
One of those scrape areas, just to comment, is from the flow off of a subdivision up above, the Pine Ridge one that comes down there through they drains their pond through there. So I'm saying in the future, if we have a situation like that, we should plan ahead so that the development pays for that rather than us. That's all I'm saying.
Good idea. Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Yep. Okay. Unfinished business, old business. I'm going to turn it over to the city attorney right now.
Your administrator couldn't be here tonight, so she asked me to basically give you an overview of what we are dealing with here. There are a series of 4 items on the agenda that are somewhat interrelated. And I think we probably are all familiar how they are interrelated, but I'll just go over it for you, just as an overview. As you are aware, when we last were together, we had the consideration of approving the jurisdictional offer to acquire the roughly 7,000 square foot triangle that is needed to complete the public acquisition if we're going to put that Thackeray Trail through. And when we did not do that, we could not take up the award of the contract because, of course, we can't award a contract to build something that we don't have the legal right to build. So those were the 2 things that were here last time. After we shot down the acquisition, I said we need to rescind the previous resolution because it's a blight on title of that property. When you do go start motion to acquire property, you file a lis pendens with the Register of Deeds, and that is notice to the world that this process is pending. So you need to remove that. So in order to just deal with every possibility here, the idea, I think, I don't put agendas together, was to have A, B, C, and D. So A is if you want to change your minds from the last time that you dealt with this issue and approve the jurisdictional offer, you gave me the authority, or at least we talked about if you are going to allow me to proceed to issue a jurisdictional offer would be in the amount of $10,000. If you do that, doesn't necessarily mean that you will proceed to award the contract tonight or even do so in the next 15 years, but at least you, as a city, would own that particular piece of property. And I understand all of the, political angles on this thing. If you acquire it, then isn't it easier to go through with it and all that? I get it. But that's what's in your lap tonight. If you do not pass A, we cannot pass C. We have to pass B to rescind that jurisdictional offer unless you want to think about it some more. And then, then we do neither A or B or C. Now, D is kind of separate to all of these. D is a resolution authorizing staff to go ahead and start designing the fix to the rest of the road that needs to be done. And so D is kind of separate from A, B, and C. So in conclusion, A, we buy the property and we don't deal with B
to rescind the jurisdictional offer, the resolution of the relocation order that we previously adopted. And then you can either go ahead and build the road and by awarding the contract, or not. And regardless of all that, you can go ahead with D and decide whether you want to put money into designing the rest of Thackeray Trail to deal with all of the issues that have been raised by all these folks. Clear as mud? Clear as mud. Okay. Okay. Before we take any motions and stuff, I'd like to have Mark do the presentation on what we're talking about so we can see, because we never really got through any of the presentation on the purchase of the property or what is being proposed on the extension. And I think the engineers are here, correct? So if we have questions, we can ask the questions. Go ahead, Lou.
Is this presentation going to include option D?
It's going to include everything.
Okay. I just didn't want it to
No,
not be inclusive.
No, I wanted,
All
if we, it's difficult to vote on something if you don't have all of the information.
Yes.
And this would give us all of the we know what the information is on A and B. We know what the ramifications are. We don't know what C is, so it's hard to vote on A or B if we don't know what C is.
And D.
And D.
Mayor?
Yes.
Then when we get to discussion, will we be able to discuss any or all of the items, A, B, C, or D at the same time?
That's up to you. Yes. Okay. I'd like to get it all out in one, and then it's basically two separate motions we'll have. Possibly three. But if we don't have the presentation, we're not gonna know what we're talking about.
Agreed.
Go ahead, Mark.
So, thank you, Mayor. So obviously Attorney Riffle has gone over the land purchase, those two items. So then we get into whether or not we approve the construction contract for the extension of Thackeray Trail. This was talked about at committee meeting last time, but because the land was not purchased, we did not move forward with any discussion of the construction of the extension. So we've been looking at the extension since the council, as part of the strategic plan, but even previous to that, had included funds to look at the permitting and extension of Thackeray Trail. One of the things that we'd always looked at with Thackeray Trail is that, we, do agree that there's a need for the repair of the existing street, but the question always came up, are we repairing a street that's going to be an existing subdivision, internal subdivision street, or are we going to be repairing an arterial street that's going to connect Silver Lake Street to Summit Avenue? So we went through that process. Permitting from the DNR is not a guarantee, so that's the reason why we chose that avenue first, to know whether or not, because the DNR could have come back and denied our permits, and then that's answered one of the questions, and then we look at the existing Thackeray Trail, decide how we want to repair it and address the needs on that street. We did bid out the project. We got one bid from Payne and Dolan, about $1.6 million to do the construction of the extension. I did look into, potentially why we got one bid. This is a difficult project for anybody to prime bid. And then it also includes work within a wetlands. I'd like to say that contractors are afraid of water. And so whenever you have something involving wetlands or things like that, you're not going to get a large turnout. I do know that a couple of the others were already tied up on other projects and were not able to bid on it. So I was, I felt comfortable in listening to that and reaching out to the other people that were holding plans that were listed as prime contractors for it. I did call them to see if there was any situation that we could have done as a city that would have had them come out and bid the project, and did not get anything to tell me that if we were to turn around and rebid or try to do this, that we would get a different outcome. We had worked with St. Jerome's, as been noted here tonight. St. Jerome's in 2004, in their developers agreement for the construction of the church initially, had within their developers agreement the information that they would be paying for half of a rural cross section to extend Thackeray Trail in the future. Normally, when we have a project of that size come in, we would have had them construct the street right away. They asked not to have to do that right away because they were taking on significant expense for the construction of the church. And, the city agreed to that, but they did include that language in the developer's agreement so that if the day did come along, that we're gonna look at the extension, that would be available to them. So, we did work with the church. We gave them a cost breakdown of, what their share would be based on that, walked them through each one of the line items. It comes out to $739,292, for their share. I think there was a little sticker shock on their part, with the number, but they did agree that this is in the agreement and that's what they'd be responsible for. I know that we felt that we were very fair with them on that. And so we do have the $1.6 million bid that's out there, 1.697. And one of the things there that we wanted to look at was removing the boardwalk part of the project. So for a 450-foot stretch of boardwalk, the cost came in at $254,000. And this was actually my first boardwalk in a project. And my first reaction was that was high. And we want to investigate this. Now, it might come back that that's a good number, that's what boardwalks cost of the quality that we were looking at with the helical piles to hold it in place better. So we did want to pull that. We can construct that at any time, but it would have to be done before the permit expires in 2022. So when we pulled that out, and then with the church's share, the adjusted city cost right now is $1.2 million. And that was the amount that we were asking to be approved. The church did ask for 10 years to pay their part of it. It was included in the recommendation and resolution to provide them that time. The developers agreement in 2004 did state that we would provide them at least 5 years to do that. So that's the cost of the extension. And so with the extension, we did look at repairing the piece of Thackeray Trail from the end of it eastward to Emerson Drive, and that was included in that bid. And if the construction is approved and we do that, then we have another item later on tonight for the 2019 streets. In the 2019 streets, we also included an alternate for fixing that same portion of street. Reason being that if the extension of Thackeray Trail wasn't approved, we wanted to go in and look at doing that because that's in very, very rough shape down on that end. So we wanted to be able to do that. So if we're taking care of that short section up to Emerson in the construction of the extension, that would free up $50,000 from the 2019 street projects, which would then go to starting the preliminary design work for the existing street. Because one, we have the permits, as someone mentioned, we have the permits, we have the land, and the extension is being paid by impact fees. Obviously, the reconstruction would be levy and more than likely a borrowing issue. So we would have those dollars available in there to do that. Now, if you don't approve the extension and you want to start looking at designing this as a whole, which is some of the things that we've heard from the council, then there's a resolution in here tonight that approves taking $50,000 from the contingency fund from our budget and earmarking those funds to start working on the reconstruction of Thackeray Trail, the preliminary design, so that we could get going on that work and get it bid out. Now, you can still, construct the extension, once it's all designed and everybody's confident of what we're doing with the whole thing, then we can go out and bid and start doing the construction in phases. So that's the items here tonight before you. If anybody has any questions, I can talk about the bid process. We have Maureen McBroom and Maria Keeley from Rupert Milky. They handled the design work of the extension and then also the DNR permitting work that was involved, if there's any questions for that.
One of the options too was to, if the extension was approved, is to not allow traffic through it until the main part, the existing part, is rebuilt and sidewalks and everything are installed.
Right.
That way there'll be no traffic coming through the neighborhood until after the sidewalks are done.
Yeah, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that. I mean, you know, the residents have been very clear and they're correct. There are no pedestrian facilities on the existing Thackeray. So if we made the connection, if we started that project, you know, in next month sometime, we're gonna go through into fall before that's completed. We would just simply barricade that off with concrete barriers, not the ones that people can just slide out of the way and drive through. And they wouldn't be open until we had the section reconstructed up to Emerson, and then we could open that section to allow that as a second access point into Thackeray Trail when we're going and doing the major reconstruction work on the main Thackeray Trail piece itself.
And keep it to local traffic, yeah, as much as possible. That's pretty much it, right?
Yes.
Hey, Mark, real quick. Do the residents know they have to pay for their sidewalks?
So ordinance allows that, ordinance allows assessment for sidewalk and curb and gutter unless waived by council. Now, on reconstruct projects that have been done, in my memory, and, you know, I've only been the director since '06, I don't recall the city ever assessing anybody for those items.
Because it'd be a reconstruct.
It's a reconstruct.
It's a reconstruct. We'll open it up for questions. And if if you have questions for the engineers, they're here. Go ahead, Lou.
This is, there's a lot to this one. So, I guess not so much a question to start, but just kind of a review. And I appreciate everybody's comments tonight. And I remember when we sat down as council, and there's some new faces on council that weren't part of those discussions. We knew that this was going to be a difficult project to address, and it is. And the battle lines were drawn, so to speak. But I'm really proud of the council and the community, because the battle lines have moved several times, and I think they've moved in the right direction based on the comments that we've heard from you, with the concerns about everything that you've discussed, and there are multiple. And I believe the structure that we have in front of us to consider can be done right. In my opinion, and we'll go through this throughout the debate, we can't get to the discussion of how we do it right until we have the property associated with that. So as we move through this discussion, that is the first item that we need to tackle. I am in support of purchasing that land for the recommended amount. That decision is the first decision and the hardest decision, because if we don't move forward with that, the resolution of necessity needs to be rescinded, and this is, I would say, tabled. It's not a dead issue, and that has been proven throughout the years that this is not a dead issue. Because it is my belief, I live on more the west side of town. Obviously, there's more, there are people here that are farther on the west side of town, but it is a connection point that helps to alleviate some of the traffic that is going downtown. And I think it'll do it in a safer way. There have been various emails sent in support and against this project. One of the emails sent recently mentioned that they would like to see those who are members of St. Jerome's stand down from the vote. The church is neutral on this. The church's contribution to this project is not a donation. It is a payment that the parishioners will end up paying for. It is like saying a tax is a donation. It is not a donation. So there, if anybody on council is associated with St. Jerome's or a parish member of St. Jerome's, I don't believe you should stand down from the vote, because you don't have any positive financial impact here. If anything, you're gonna end up paying for it. So I wanted to get that out there too. You know, there are all kinds of comments made about why this goes through, and I don't believe for a second that this has been brought up. So any member of any one of your elected officials may have a shorter trip to Walgreens. It is, I think, purely a connectivity of the west side of town to your Summit Avenue, which gets you to 94 and to the bypass. In my opinion, and everybody here has shared their opinion. And I believe that in the discussions, and this has not been rushed, we've all agreed that this has been a horse that has been beaten over a long period of time. And for whatever we come up with today, it is not going to be too long before the conditions change and the discussion would change with the future development on that west side. And I think we could all agree that there will be future development on that west side, and connectivity is something that this council needs to consider for the community as a whole. The safety and how we approach those things are our obligation, not only to those who live on Thackeray Trail today, but for everyone who lives in the city, because it says to the city how we do business. So as we go through the phasing, the safety concerns, the sidewalks, the traffic control, those are things that we don't have the full picture of until we have a complete engineered solution from Summit to Silver Lake. That is our obligation, in my opinion, to consider as we go through this debate, and we should get to that point. And again, we don't get to that point until we pass the purchase of the property. That's my comment to my fellow councilmen.
Okay. Go ahead, Charlie.
Well, I have not been supportive of this project right from the start, and I still am not going to support extending Thackeray Trail because I think it gets traffic to the wrong spot on Silver Lake Street, and it just adds to all the congestion on Bolson. Mark, I'm going to have a question if you want to start coming up this way, though. As far as like item D on here, the resolution to authorize initial design work for existing Thackeray Trail, that's something I think we absolutely have to do. Thackeray Trail is not in good shape at all. We know that. We need to have stormwater management taken care of. We need to have curb and gutter. It'd be nice to see sidewalks, and this is where I get to a question, because if we're gonna run sidewalks down Thackeray Trail, that sidewalk, I think, or a path or a pedestrian bike path should continue on and go to Silver Lake Street. Do we need a parcel of property from Paganica in order to do just a sidewalk?
Yes.
How much? Any idea? I mean,
How much
would it
would
be
we
half?
need just for that? I couldn't tell you that
See,
offhand.
Because this
but-
is where I'm struggling. I don't want to vote or to do the jurisdictional offer to acquire all of the part needed for the entire extension. All I want to okay is enough for a sidewalk.
Yeah,
How do I do that?
Well, you can't do it tonight. We'd have to start over. Because the offer was based on the 7,000 square feet. It is, yeah, you either get it all, you get none of it. And
Okay.
we'd have to start over, and we'd get a new legal description, and it would have to be designed, first of all, so we know what we need,
Okay.
right?
Well, then I'm back to where what I'm going to be very much in support of is item D on here.
And it wouldn't be impact fees then either, because it wouldn't be a road. It would be 250,000 for a boardwalk plus sidewalk that you'd have to pay for out of tax levy. Go ahead, Lou.
The purchase of the property that's on the agenda tonight, if we purchase that property, we have the ability to do the boardwalk, which supports pedestrian traffic associated with the overall project, correct?
Correct.
So it's not that we would need more property purchased at a later date to do the pedestrian connectivity between the extension and the main road.
Correct.
Go ahead.
You know, I just look at this project to see who will benefit from this project here. As city taxpayers, it's a lot of money to put out for just a very, very small people that are going to benefit by this project. It was brought up before, one of the main menus is because the fire department's going to get here a better shot at it. Well, everybody forgets Summit has nothing to do with this thing because you can come out of Second Street and they're going to get here much quicker. So that's bogus. Police right down Silver Lake Street, the station's right there, and then eventually it's going to be down to a couple of things. And their patrolmen are driving all over the place. As a matter of fact, they sit, we all know where they sit on Summit Avenue. They'd have to go backwards to go through to get the other part of it. And that won't happen, unless they're pretty good at reverse driving. And I just, the expenditure, look at Silver Lake Street itself should be fixed, for crying out loud. We got so many roads that just have to be fixed, and I don't get it. I know it's been going on for a long, long time, and I think that when Father John didn't have a clue what he was doing back in those days, he was there and didn't expect to all of a sudden, to this day, come up with $750,000 to put in 800 feet or whatever they have to do for that. And what is it going to do for them? Is add more pedestrians for the kids to get run over. So I just don't get it. I can't vote for any part of this particular agreement.
Go ahead, Lou. One thing I want to, we can, I think now is more to, not if you want it or don't want it, but questions about the design or the road or whatever, I think makes more sense. And then once we get into each individual, then we can go from there, so.
Okay.
I just think it makes more sense.
Yep. So I'll go to that direction. We don't know the engineering of the existing road as of yet, but I think what we can agree on, that it will be very expensive. Is that a true statement? Comparatively to the extension, it is much more extensive of a capital expenditure.
Yeah, it's double the length, it's a lot more street, there's, a lot of items to be contended in there, and, and I will say that, we've always looked at the need to do the maintenance that's required on Thackeray Trail. The question always came up as to, is it a through street or not? And so that's what's gotten us to the point. It's overdue. I'm not gonna sit here and argue that, but, so that's the question that needs to get answered. But yeah, you're looking at, because of the length of the street and the width and everything involved in it, and if, this would, get into the next step. So, if the land's purchased and we're designing and looking at the different cross-section options available for the reconstruction of the existing, it's, is it pedestrian facilities on one side? Is it both sides? Is it sidewalk? Is it a path? Is it all curb and guttered? The width of the median, there's a lot of issues. Do you use stormwater pipe to move the stormwater down through? Because then if you use the stormwater pipe, now you got to look at a pond down at the bottom. So there's a lot of things, and all of these are very doable. They're done in other places. It's not a difficult design. The grading of it and everything, for pedestrian facilities will add some challenges because of the slopes of the front yards, but, it's all very, very doable. But yes, you are talking, anywhere from probably 1.5 to 4 million, depending on which options are selected.
The only reason I ask that is because in regards to the cost of the extension and the benefit of the community, the way that this project has been structured, the cost impact to the community is relatively minimal. The cost associated with redoing Thackeray Trail as it stands today is relatively substantial. That does not sway my vote. It would not sway my vote away from doing that because it is needed, and it is needed to be done right. So it's not going to get any cheaper anytime soon either. How we phase this, how we address it, is up to this council. We have difficult decisions for sure, but the people sitting out here and the people at home are trusting that we're going to do it right. I know everybody on this council, and I have faith that we, as this body, will do it right. And for that reason, and for the reason of supporting the reconstruction of Thackeray Trail and making that a priority in this process, I'm going to support the purchase of the property that we need from Paganica.
Eric, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I'm in support of purchasing the property from Paganica for future building, but in no way am I in favor of going forward with the extension before everything's been designed so that there's sidewalks, curb and gutter, possibly, you know, the street design as far as traffic study to make sure everything flows properly up by Walgreens. I've heard a lot. I've been listening. I just believe that that it needs to be done right so that the residents are happy with the product and the city's happy with the product. I don't think, I'm very concerned about what you just said about needing a pond at the bottom if we put pipe in.
Correct.
Because that's not designed, correct?
Not at this time, none of.
We've
the
been told that
existing-
whatever has been designed will handle whatever we got. And I just heard something contrary to that.
Well, that's not what he said for the existing with the ditches. If you decide to put a curb and gutter and total
Well,
storm
that's
sewer
my
in,
point,
total
is
storm
we
sewer
don't
in,
have what
then-
we need potentially on the bottom if we design it the proper way on top, in my opinion. It's just my opinion that I think sidewalks and curb and gutter need to go in and that road needs to change because those ditches are crazy deep and I wouldn't want to mow those or try and walk through them. So I'm in support of what we need to do the extension right now. The other point is we've been told that we have, the design is done for the bottom and it won't matter what we do on top, and now it sounds different. So I have a problem with how that was presented. And if we decide to move forward with the design of the upper portion, I don't know if it's important to have the same firm do the top and the bottom or not, but I think it would be good to know that we have everything done properly to begin with. And I will not vote for anything if it's not done in a fashion that I feel is good for the neighborhood and good for the city.
And to address Alderman Zwart, your comment regarding the pond, so if we were to go to a storm sewer pipe and pipe it down, so then because of the DNR regulations, you need to clean that water before it goes into the wetland area. So if you switch from the ditches that are there and went to a pipe system, then you would have to have some way of cleaning that water before it went in.
And where would we get that land from?
We own the park at the bottom.
So we'd use the park?
Yes,
Okay.
there'd be a portion of
But
the
it
park.
still hasn't been designed yet.
Correct. We have not done any design work on the existing Thackeray Trail.
Kevin?
First off, I want to thank this board. I'm so excited that we're having this debate. I think it's a really good thing. In the past, I don't think this would have happened, but I won't go there. And not with this board, but with other boards. I have a question, and I'd like to ask the chief. Okay, so my question is this. If Thackeray Trail is put through, will this benefit law enforcement as far as time, as far as being able to get over to Silver Lake, or is it kind of a non-issue because you've got alternate routes and it doesn't make a difference?
Connectivity is always important to public safety. I'll focus primarily on law enforcement. You know, you can look at our manpower levels and what we have out there for manpower. Other officers are tied up on calls. Let's say they're up in the north end and they have to get down to the Silver Lake area or the Parkway area. To be able to come right up the Parkway to come down Thackeray would be much quicker than taking Armour to Bulls or at the Forest down Silver Lake. So connectivity is always important to law enforcement.
Okay. I did a little something. Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay. I took some time out today because this is a very important subject. So I took some time out and I decided to go for a little drive. So I went over to station number 1, which is over at Pabst Farms. Thanks, Chief, I appreciate it. Thank you, yeah. And I sat there. And then I said, okay, now a call has just happened. There's a fire over on Silver Lake Street, and I need to get there. So I started my watch. I did drive the speed limit, just so you know. And I said to myself, here are the rules. If I get stopped by a light, I'm going to stop my timer. But if I don't, I'm going to continue it until I reach my destination. So I did that. I took 2 routes. The first route that I did was from Oconomowoc Parkway. And so as you're leaving Station 1, you're going down Oconomowoc Parkway. Of course, everybody knows the route and everything. I looked at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 streets. I looked at Oconomowoc Parkway on the other side. It took me 3 minutes and 41.54 seconds to get there, which is exactly 1.8 miles. I then went ahead and I went to the next one, which I think is Lake Ridge Drive. That took me 4 minutes, and that's 1.9 miles. Then I went to Silver Lake. That took me 4 minutes, 32 seconds, 0.88, and that was 2 miles. Riverwood was 5 minutes, 14.31 seconds, and that was 2.3 miles. Now remember, this is from station number 1 going over to Silver Lake to just these streets, okay? I looked at, then I went to Thackeray. Now, you can't go through Thackeray, you've got to go all the way around to get to the other side to be able to get to the church. And in this case, that was Glenwood, I'm sorry. That was 5 minutes, 33 seconds, which was 2.5 miles. So I also did Ballston, I did Oconomowoc Square, and I did Forest Street, but let me just go to what I did the second time. At this point, I took 67. So coming out of the fire department, I made the right onto 67. And I went all the way down to Thackeray. At which point in time, I made that left onto Thackeray and I went all the way down. And then I called somebody and I said, okay, how much land would we be purchasing? And I was told it was a 1/4 acre. So from the fire department, Station 1, to the end of Thackeray was 1.9 miles. So for me to be able to get from the fire department to the quote-unquote end of Thackeray, assuming that that path goes through, is plus or minus 2.15. Now, so that kind of agrees with that one lady who said 0.4, okay? But here's the difference, and I found this out to be quite interesting. It took me 3 minutes and 28 seconds, 0.25, to get to the end of Thackeray. If I added on that extra 1/4, that would take me less than 4 minutes to get to the end of Thackeray. Now, what does that mean? To me, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else out here or over here. What that tells me is if there's a fire, every second counts, period. And if it's my house that's burning, every second counts. And if somebody's going to sit out there and tell me that that's not the truth, they're lying to themselves. So I took that into consideration, as well as so many other points. Allison, who was the gentleman who read Allison? Okay. She stated something that I think is fantastic, and that is, as a small business owner, you go in, you understand the pros, you understand the cons, and you make your decision. And so I sat down and I wrote both the pros and the cons out, understanding that the decision that I'm making tonight is one that is going to outlive me. period. So, I just wanted to share that with you, just so that you understand. I literally took time out today to do this, because this was important to me. I wanted to see if there was any difference between me going from Station 1 to the other side of Thackeray, and whether it was significant. And in this case, it was. Thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Tom.
I got a rebuttal on that, Kevin. Which one you talking about, Station 1?
The one over Pabst Farms.
That's Station 2.
Is that Station 2?
Yeah.
I thought that was Station 1.
No.
It is Station
It is
1.
Station 1.
Station 1.
Yeah.
Okay, Station 2.
Okay, so I haven't gone
Changed
totally
it when
crazy.
when we
So
had the
you think,
merger.
so did you try the one from the other one, Station 2?
I only have 24 hours in a day, dude.
Okay.
I have
Well,
a business to run.
Yeah, trust me, Station 2 will gonna get you quicker there than that way you just went down through there, so. Concord, come right. Station 3. That's, where did one go?
I think
Okay,
it-
so if you
Doesn't
want,
matter.
if you want to do, I appreciate your opinion, okay? But if you got a 5-alarm fire, I'm not thinking that just station number 2 is going to be there. You're going to have station number 1, 3, and 4, and 12 if necessary.
You're gonna have them all, but still.
Thank you. So my point is, it's significant.
Thanks, Kevin. Go ahead, Karen.
I just want to speak briefly because I know that this is a very emotionally charged issue for a lot of people. And we've gotten a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls on both sides of this issue. And I assure you, this is not an easy decision for any of us to make. We're trying to get the best information we can and make the best decision that we possibly can. In my opinion, I think it would be unwise if we don't purchase the piece of land at this time. Whether we vote on C or D at this time, I think it's wise for us to have that in our back pocket, whether Thackeray Trail goes through this year, next year, or 30 years from now. I think we're making a decision for the community and for the future council members as a whole to acquire that piece of land and have that. I would like to see the Thackeray Trail design done comprehensively. I don't know if that will happen, but if we can do that, if we can send that out for, one bid for the overall thing to be done, otherwise I would be in favor of obviously designing the current portion to be done and then see how that would then tie into potentially extending Thackeray Trail.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I would like to see that parcel too, but not all of it. Like I said earlier, I am going to vote against buying that parcel, all .16 acres, because what that says is that I am okay with putting the road through there because that's what it's purchased for, is for the road and the walkway. And I'm going to vote against it because I want to see a smaller parcel so that we can just put a walkway path through there. That's all I want to see.
Okay. Go ahead.
But I think voting for the land is not necessarily saying yes to Thackeray Trail extension. It's an insurance policy of sorts for us to have that now and to get that now and obtain that now. That's my opinion.
Okay. Any other, go ahead, Tom.
I'm really thinking that we should probably have a full council when we vote on this.
I talked to Derek, I talked to Alderman Rozak about this,
Yeah.
and we all know which way he's gonna vote, and basically, we cancel each other out, so it really doesn't make a difference. Because if he votes, it's, somebody else has to flip a vote, not Matt.
Well, somebody might.
If someone does, then it wouldn't make any difference, because then I would vote for it anyways. So him not being here does not make a difference. Go ahead, Lou.
I hate to do this to you, Andy, but your opinion means a lot to me, and I haven't heard from you, so I'd like to get your 2 cents in regards to where you're at with this.
Well, I've learned that wisdom is usually silence.
Boy.
And I'm not smart, but I'm just listening. I'm watching, I'm hearing. I'm going to vote yes to buy the land. I know I am. I think it's smart. I don't think it's stupid. I will not vote for the extension. I will not vote for anything being done until I can see the big picture, and the people I have to represent need to be able to see this big picture so they can ask about if there's a pond put in the park my 3-year-old plays in, is there still gonna be a park, or is it just become a pond now? Which, fine, we can find frogs, whatever, but there's a playground there, there's other things that happen at that park. So I believe and I trust that the decision will be made right tonight, but there's gonna be constant flow of question, and I wanna be able to handle them in a way that it's appropriate, that I'm not lying and I'm telling the truth. And when questions are asked, I can give an honest answer or direct to the right person. I don't like how this was dealt with till now. I'm not saying my way is better, but I feel like the best way we can handle it is being fleshed out now. I don't like that Matt's not here to be able to give his vote, but I don't know the protocols on that, so I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I don't. I mean, this is my second round, and
Could you provide Andy with a potential direction for what we could do as council in delaying the vote if he wanted to wait until we had full council representation, since he doesn't know?
You asking me for a legal opinion?
Yes.
You want me to give him a legal opinion?
Well, that's what they asked for.
Yeah.
Vote to table the,
postpone.
any one of, no, table, any one of these matters. And if there's a second, there's no discussion, and then that's that.
Then you vote on it.
Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
vote. I mean, if it votes to be tabled, then it's tabled.
Like I said earlier to Tom, the vote last time was 5-3 against. So Matt's not here, so it would still be 4-3 if nobody changed their vote, and it still would fail. But it would take someone besides Matt to change the vote. Someone else that voted against it would have to vote for it. If someone else voted for it, and Matt was still here and voted it, it would be tied 4-4. At which point I would break the tie to purchase the property. So Matt not being here, yes, he's not here, but we can't hold things up in the city business because all the aldermen aren't here. What happens if someone's not here at the next meeting? Or the meeting after that? Every time someone's not here, we can't hold up votes that are important to the city. We have multiple contracts out there waiting to get awarded, or the construction season is too short, and you know what Wisconsin's like. So we have to, continue to move forward with who we have. That's just a matter of the way it is, because if we waited for everybody to be here, chances are we would wait, and nothing will get done.
Okay.
Okay? Do you know other questions then? We'll need a motion to approve the jurisdictional offer to acquire 0.16 acres from Power Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Nay.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Nay.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Okay, since that passed, item B is not going to be acted on, since we don't have to pull that.
Correct.
Okay, item C then is consider act on a resolution awarding contract for the extension of Thackeray Trail. We need a motion to approve that, or,
So moved.
Did that.
Kevin did. Not seeing a second, that will not be approved at this time. And that last item is consider act on a resolution authorizing an initial design work for existing Thackeray Trail reconstruction project. Resolution is, where is it in here?
On page 17,
Yeah,
or
I got it.
excuse me, 37.
37.
Pardon me.
What this resolution does, it allows us to take money from the contingency fund to start the design work. This is not going to be engineering work. This is going to be conceptual design. And they're going to look at conceptual design. And Mark, you want to explain what they're going to look at? The one thing that I think what was kind of maybe a misunderstanding was when Mark said the extension is pretty much going to stay the size it is. I think it's the width of the street because of the the amount of wetland that can be disturbed, what the DNR would allow.
Can I
So
make a
think
point
that's
to,
the one
to
thing.
having a narrow street is a good thing for traffic speeds from every study. I've been with the DOT
Yeah.
or working with them. And wide streets produce fast traffic.
Correct.
Narrow streets produce slower traffic. So having it more narrow down there is not a bad thing for the neighborhood. And it might be good to have it narrow all the way down from Walgreens on down.
Possible. But
It
that's
might
what-
be.
I think
I'm
that's
just
what-
saying, I wouldn't get hung up on that it's too
No, no,
narrow
no,
down
but
there.
that's what when he was saying that's the width, because that's the width that the wetland would allow. I mean, we can't go with a full boulevard through there, so. Mark, do you want to explain what the resolution is then?
So the resolution is to take $50,000 from the contingency fund, which needs a budget amendment in order to start using those funds to do the preliminary work. So the preliminary work is, we would sit down and look at some of the options. It doesn't get into any of the real design engineering. We're not gonna have exact numbers, but we can start looking at the different options available. Alderman Zwart, you brought up a couple things, street width and how we handle that, pedestrian facilities, stormwater facilities. There's many different options out there that we can be doing on the street. Now, one of the things that, we've mentioned a couple times and people might not realize, but we have a 100-foot wide right-of-way through there. So there's plenty of street already within that right-of-way. You've got just over 20 feet of asphalt on each side and a 20-foot wide median, so it's taking up a lot of that. But when you look at a lot of the standard configurations of streets through the city, there may be, 37 to 40 feet wide. This is just one that does have the boulevard. One of the things nice about that, and they bring up the number of driveways, well, you only got half on each side. When you're backing out, you only have to worry about traffic from one side. So those are things that, keep in mind that, should this be a through street, we would look at that. If it's not going to be a through street, then the council's also going to want to take into consideration of, how much are you going to spend on pedestrian facilities? Or maybe there are only pedestrian facilities on one side versus both if it's not a through street. These are just some of the things that, would come up through the discussion. Obviously, the residents have asked for input. I'm expecting the council is going to want to honor that. And so we would have to, just do some preliminary, say, here's a general cross-section, and if this is what we do, here's an estimated cost of where that's at. Here's the pros and cons.
And if we do it now, it gives us the ability to do it through the summer before budgeting process in the fall, so that if it comes in correctly, we can budget for the design and engineering throughout the late winter and bid it next spring and possibly get it done, because the road can't last much longer. I mean, it's gotta be done. Lou?
I think this council does want to honor the inclusion of residents in that area. With that $50,000 allocation in the beginning of this process, it would seem to me that would be the place that we would want representatives from the neighborhood to provide that input, along with elected officials associated with the districts that abut that area. Is there a way to get that structured as part of what we are looking to do?
I think that would be part of after we come up with some initial concepts. I mean, that's something we can work out, but I know the aldermen from the 3rd and the 4th district are gonna wanna be heavily involved in it, and they'll relate back to their, we'll have, I mean, we've done it before with other things where we have design meetings, or I wouldn't say design meetings, public input meetings, where you can see the different options and say, okay, this is good, this is bad. There's gonna be differences in cost, and that's something we're gonna have to decide. Because if you go with a system that looks kind of like what it does now with the ditches and maybe a sidewalk, is gonna be a lot less expensive than going with a curb and gutter and buried storm sewer. But, that's just the options we'll have to look at.
So I understand, based on what you said, that we would form a committee with DPW and council, but I'd like a representative from that neighborhood that they could assign as well, if they so choose.
How do you normally do it, Mark, when you're doing a street design? It's just
Usually
guys-
you don't get into complex street designs such as this on the projects that we do. I mean, the majority of our work is we're digging up existing streets, pretty much reconstructing them.
Well, we've had meetings with the people for the Collins Street parking lot. We've had input from the businesses owners back there. on,
We had not gone to them with any plans because just before we were going to reach out to them.
say the one back here then. I mean, we've done it
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
So we've done it before,
Okay.
of getting input, and that's something that we'll just do as public input meetings.
We
But
would
it
bring.
would be,
We would bring forth, probably 3 or 4 options that, have kind of been looked at by the council so that everybody's supportive of the direction of any one of them and discuss the pros and cons. And then the neighbors could then look at and decide which one they feel works for them. But at the end of the day, it is the council decision because it is levy money and a borrowing that will do this, so.
go ahead, Kevin.
The way I see that happening is the communication would be between us, and then my communication would be with my constituents.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it happening, and that's what my job is. My job is to make sure that everybody's up to speed while I'm walking my dog, while I'm running, while I'm biking. Hey, by the way, this is what's happening. We have a meeting, whatever it is. That's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do, okay? So to answer your question, I think that that's when the onus becomes on myself, okay, or the aldermen in districts 3 and 4, where we need to go out to our constituents and say, this is what's going down, this is what's happening, what are your opinions?
An easy way to do that is a town hall meeting like I've been doing.
That's correct, yeah.
It's
We'd
just-
have like a
just-
town hall
you can
meeting,
do
or
that.
I have a plethora of individuals that have been emailing
Yep.
me.
Yes.
And
And that's a good
I
way to do
can
it.
absolutely get back to them in a heartbeat.
Sure, Derek?
I would be in favor of putting out $50,000 toward the design work, provided it's a not-to-exceed contract, and there is a contract in place, because
Yes.
it was brought to my attention that there is no contract with our street designs, and we are not made aware of the overages. So
Yes.
there needs to be a contract in place, and I would prefer an RFP as well, not just be handed to whoever's doing it right
And I
now.
would absolutely second that, because in the past, there have been no contracts, and, well, we know where that's gone. I would absolutely second that.
We can do that. Go ahead, Karen.
Actually, I was going to address the same thing that Lou did as far as engaging the citizens, and although this may continue to have my phone and my emails blow up, I do want you to know that we are listening, and that when we say that, we're sincere about that, and we'd like to still keep hearing from you on both sides of the issue. And the safety of your neighborhood and our citizens is really an utmost thing in our minds. So please keep communicating with us, and please keep sharing. This is just in the infancy process of redoing the current portion. When we do the design, we will still want your input. We will still want to see what we can do right and what we can do best for the current portion of Thackeray Trail, so.
And I like Kevin's idea, though, of it's their constituents, and I think that's the best way to initially handle it. Charlie?
Derek, was that a motion? That you just made before? I mean,
I could make it a motion if you guys want me to.
Do we have a motion? going
we
yet?
don't have a motion on the floor yet.
we don't
Okay,
have one.
okay,
So
go
we
ahead.
Well,
need to make a
I'll
motion.
amend whatever D is, I guess, to include that in there.
Well, just make the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to budget, or take, $50,000 out of the contingency fund, provided that it's to do some preliminary conceptual design work, provided that it is done through the RFP process, and whoever's awarded the process uses a not-to-exceed contract, so that we're assured that they don't go over that amount.
Okay.
And I'm seconding that.
Do we have a second? Okay.
This is for design work for existing Thackeray
Existing.
Trail.
Well, it's gonna have to.
Free trail, right.
But you understand that out there?
It's gonna have to be for the existing and how it matches up with, if it's an extension. So it's all gotta be laid out and then decide how it's gonna be done. So I have a motion to second. Any other comments? This is a budget amendment, correct?
Yes, it is.
So this needs 6 votes. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers?
Aye.
Alderman Shaw?
Aye.
Alderman Ellis?
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg?
Aye.
Alderman Zwart?
Aye.
Alderman Stray?
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to new business. Consider act on resolution to amend the 2019 budget for implementation of Phase 1 of the Northeast Regional Park. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
John, you want to give a quick update on this?
Yep, John.
Thank you, Mayor. I can sense the room's going to clear now. I have that effect sometimes. So I'd like to just give a quick overview for those that may not be familiar with what this project is really about. The Northeast Regional Park is located in the northeast section of the city. It was a collaborative effort between the city, St. Matthew's Church, and Meadowview, or the school district, I should say, to develop an overall concept plan. During this process, my team and the Park and Recreation Board evaluated potential facilities that could be developed in this 33-plus acre park. We evaluated the public needs assessment that was completed. We evaluated other park design components that we've seen in other areas and what potential needs we may have here in Oconomowoc. Ultimately, we came up with a concept design that is up on the screen before you today. The concept design has a variety of components in it, but they really broke it down into two phases. Phase one would be the construction of an asphalt, I should start at the beginning here. Phase one would include all the grading, seeding, fertilization of the park area. Second part of phase one would be putting the the asphalt trail that would go around the perimeter of the park that would connect to the trail that goes around Meadowview School, giving a comprehensive loop. And the third component is adding trees around the perimeter. All the multi-purpose athletic fields, the restroom, lift station area, these little lines here are future parking stalls that would be added when Wayland Drive is completed. We have some fitness equipment and a variety of other components that went in there. But long and short of it is, phase one is what we need to do before we can consider what we want to do in the future. So, phase one was bid as part with the street projects in 2019, and the street project bid results are the next item on the agenda this evening. And the bid pricing came in, as you can see on your screen. That includes the grading, seeding, fertilization, the perimeter trail, the tree planting, which will be direct purchase of trees. My team will do all the installation of those. We have some construction management and inspection services related to estimated costs based on past history of projects in the city. This number may be lower. We should not exceed that amount, and there's been a message on that in the past. Long and short of it is we have a full total here with construction management included to be $547,077.50 for the total project. So where does that put us today? We had a committee of the whole meeting on April 16th. As you all remember, about 3 weeks ago, I gave you a lot more history on the project, but we presented these 4 options for you to consider on how we would like to move forward with the Northeast Regional Park. I highlighted option C, which was to authorize the full project, phase one, in the amount shown, which would require us to have a budget amendment. And why do we need a budget amendment? The 2019 project, or the 2019 part, the long-range financial plan had $300,000 in 2019 and $450,000 in 2020. Originally, we had all $750 in the year 2019. We made an adjustment during our long-term financial planning to split that, not knowing what all the components were going to be. Long and short of it is, regardless of what year the money's in, it's going to be funded through the Park Impact Fee Fund. So, we have $300,000 budgeted in 2019. The additional amount to get us to the 547 amount is right here, $247,000 some odd dollars, which is what the budget amendment requirement would be for us to proceed. So before you tonight is a resolution requesting a budget amendment to authorize the $547,000 some odd dollars to move forward with phase one of the Northeast Regional Park. Just as earlier today, if you have a budget amendment, we are required to have in favor 6 votes for it to move forward. Anything below 6 would stop the project at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for John? Seeing none, we do have a motion, right? We have a motion and a second on the floor for
The budget amendment.
the budget amendment for the Northeast Regional Park. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Okay, next item is consider acting a resolution awarding the contract for the 2019 street improvement program. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
So made.
Second.
Thank you, Mayor. The item tonight is for our 2019 street projects. They were designed and bid with the bids opened towards the end of March. 2 bids were received, both of them very close, $165 separated the 2 bids, and they were in the just over $4 million mark. We had 3 streets that we're looking at doing reconstruction on. That's Cross Street, which is the little short street between Main Street and Summit Avenue by the church. Westover Street from Summit to Jefferson, yes. And then Collins Street. And we split Collins Street into 2 parts, partially for concerns on what we were seeing for cost, and the other is whether or not the parking lot would have a design to it that we were confident that we could go in and reconstruct the western portion of that street. We had several streets that were doing pulverized and overlay on, a lot of them in the Whitman Hills area in order to start addressing some of those. Lapham Street, we have a significant river crossing that we're going to be doing with our water main. We have some work on the Northeast region to complete, and then John just talked about the Northeast Regional Park, and then for our wastewater treatment plant, the rehabbing some of their sanitary sewer and manholes, and then also looking at addressing some of their pavement conditions down at the plant. The original base bids came in, and when we looked at them, both the city budget was exceeded and the water utility. So we reached out to the low bid contractor, which was DF Tomasini, requested removing several items in order to bring the cost down, those being anything over the $100,000 that was in the bid, in the budget for the wastewater treatment plant for their pavement sections, removing some of their lining projects. We removed Wood Street from the project. That was a water main and a street pulverizing project. And up on the north end, we pulled out some of the sidewalk and curb, and then some of the pond work up there. That totaled $742,779 that we asked to remove in order to make the budget. DF Tomasini did agree to doing that. As a comparison, so with the total bid based on those removals and then plus adding in the $50,000 to do that section of Emerson that we've talked about a couple times tonight, and then there's roughly $8,300 worth of sidewalk work to do on Worthington Street to better match into the concrete at grade crossing that CP Rail installed there. So the total project cost with all of that is $3,404,223.65. Comparable when we reduce the same items in the bid from Payne and Dolan, their total cost would have been $3,441,000. So I was incorrect in my number that I spoke about in the committee when I said it was a $24,000 difference between the two. It's actually $37,000 when we make the adjustments to the initial bids. So we're recommending DF Tomasini for the work at a total adjusted cost of $3,404,223.65.
Thank you, Mark. Comments? Seeing none, we have a resolution.
Hold on a second.
Oh,
I
go.
just wanted to make a comment that we had to pull $750,000 of projects out to get under budget. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So in committee, we talked about being under budget, but it's only because we pulled out a whole bunch of stuff, which is maybe why we should work hard to get out sooner, whatever we got to do to get more bids, because when we only have 2 and they come in that close, we don't have any options. So it's important to get the work done early, I think, so that we have a lot of people that want to bid on it. I know it's busy right now. As Mark said, you've got Foxconn going on and construction is through the roof. So we're paying for it like everybody else is. But anything we can do to attract more people or more companies to bid on this is good for us. And 2 isn't enough. So, but I think we should still move forward with it. Just a comment.
Yeah, I agree with you, because, we've had this problem for years, and then a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, we got the things in December, right? And now all of a sudden, we're back to this again, so. work on it.
Aaron?
So what is the solution to being able to get more bids on these processes?
Get them out earlier.
It helps to get them out earlier, I believe, in my opinion. I don't know.
I think the budget has to be determined before they even start the engineering part of it. I mean, we have to approve the engineering the year before, which we don't do. We have to have the streets laid out and the engineering approved before and do it in this calendar year so that they can bid it this year for next year's projects, as soon as the budget's approved so they can start bidding. And that would take extra money to get us half a year ahead. We've always done it this way.
Doesn't mean it's right, though.
No, I know, I'm just saying, we've never had the problem with only a few bidders. We've always had more bidders, but construction in Wisconsin at this point is off the charts. So it's just something we'll have to do. Go ahead.
What I'd like in the future is an itemized listing of those that just not went through the bidding process and gave us a bid, but those that declined. Because I'd like to know exactly why they declined. I think if we have some sort of a study done that way, then we can make it a lot more fairer, if that's the word, for other individuals. In the short time that I've been on this council, it's always been the same. I know you guys have done this way for 1,000 years, but I just don't consider it to be fair. And it's very difficult for me to award something to somebody when I don't even know if that's really a plausible number. I mean, 3, 4 million, okay, so we got 2 bids at 4 million, but if we had 5 or 6 or 8 or even 10 individuals, maybe that $4 million figure is now 2.5. Now, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but you see, that's what I'm looking for. That's now we're in a competitive situation. And if that means we need to get them out earlier, then we need to figure out how to do that. But I would really like to know those individuals who just said, nah, I'm good, we don't want to bid, because I'd like to have that conversation with them and say, why?
Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Next item is consider act on a resolution approving appointment of the official city newspaper for 2019-2020. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
I'll second. You want to
Yes, thank you,
report on
Mayor.
this?
There is a revised resolution at your stations. The bids were open today at noon. We had 2 bidders, the what was formerly known as the Oconomowoc Focus and the Oconomowoc Enterprise. And after reviewing the bids, I determined that the best bid received was from the Enterprise. That is currently our city's official newspaper. And I would recommend that we approve the resolution where the Enterprise would stay as the city's official newspaper for the 2019-2020 term.
Questions? Go ahead.
How long have they been the official newspaper for Oconomowoc?
1919.
No.
They flip-flop between them and the Lake Country.
I would say the last 3 years for sure. So this might be the 4th year that they would be it. Both papers used to be located in the city of Oconomowoc. That has changed, and ownership of the Focus has changed, and that their pricing is different now than what it used to be. So, you know, I'm looking for the best, the most cost-effective way to do all our legal publications, and based on the bids that came in, the Enterprise is the one.
And we only got 2 bids because there's only 2 papers.
Right.
Yes.
See, now that's a whole different ballgame, okay?
Two-paper town. Any questions? Seeing none, call the roll.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Next item is consider act on a resolution disallowing claim for damages at 11 65 Summit Avenue, Pagankoff. We had a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution disallowing the claim.
Second.
Lori?
Yep, the city received a claim of damages due to a sewer backup at 1165 Summit Avenue. The city crews responded right away. The source of the clog was found to not have been caused by the city. The city's insurance company investigated the claim and found that the city is not negligent and recommends that we deny the claim.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Zwart.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Kavieski.
Aye.
Okay, mayoral appointments to council committees. I've changed things up a little bit. Try to give everybody a chance to do different things. So this year, the Finance Committee will be chaired by Alderman Spiegelberg. Alderman Shaw will be secretary with Alderman Rozak as a member. Personnel Committee will be chaired by Alderman Rozak, Stray as secretary, and Rogers as a member. Protection and Welfare will have Alderman Shaw as the chairman, Spiegelberger as the secretary, and Rogers as a member. Public Services, Alderman Stray will be the chairman, Zwart secretary, and Ellis will be a member. Utility will have Alderman Kawieski as chairman, Zwart as secretary, and Shaw as a member. Library Board will be Alderman Kawieski. Park and Rec will be Alderman Stray and Alderman Ellis. CDA will be Alderman Kawieski. Police and Fire Commission will be Alderman Rozak, and Elderly Housing Authority will be Alderman Spiegelberg. And I also appoint myself to the Elderly Housing Authority, which I don't know if we'll ever meet again, but.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor,
Uh,
I'm probably going to have a confliction on that Park and Rec because my Legion meetings are the same time
On
and
the second Monday?
never mind, no confliction.
It's the second Monday, right?
It usually is,
Oh,
yes.
good, I'm back on the rec.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get those things going right.
Yeah. John's had it too easy. I thought I'd give him. Staff
We'll go
reports.
swimming together, John.
No staff reports? Reports and comments from the Alderman? Go ahead.
Yeah, once again, I want to thank you guys just for going through this process. I think it's a great exercise. I think it also shows our strength, and our strength is just not in saying yes. Our strength is saying why. I really do appreciate that. Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to lighten things up a little bit. Exactly 27 years ago today, I gave birth to my second out of 3 children. One experience that none of the other council members can say they've been through.
In the same way, yeah.
But in light of that, really, I'd like to say Happy Mother's Day to every woman in Oconomowoc, not just the moms. Because whether you are a mom or not, or have given birth as a mom or not, you are helping to raise up the next generation in our community, and I think that's very much appreciated.
Okay, I'm going to bring you guys down again.
Oh,
All right, I'm going to ask again to talk about the data that was provided to us on our construction and design contracts. I think I can safely say that we're at least on average over the last 6 years, $75,000 to 100, somewhere in that range, over the RFPs and climbing. In our meetings these are the issues I want to talk about. Our accounting system doesn't keep track of the difference between the RFPs and what we're spending, and that needs to be fixed. And I was told we don't have contracts with our design and construction management firms, and that to me is wrong. I think we should have not to exceed contracts, and that's why I asked for it tonight. That's it.
Okay, Lou?
I appreciate you reading the proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Month. And this is my last opportunity to let the public know that the Jump for Archie is next week, Wednesday. And it's a great event to bring awareness and action to those who are struggling with addiction and the hurdles of mental health. So go out and jump.
Thanks. Any other comments? Seeing none. Reports and comments from the mayor. I already read one proclamation. I do have another proclamation, and I will read that now. This is for Professional Municipal Clerks Week proclamation. This is for this week. Whereas the, excuse me, the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the Professional Municipal Clerk provides the specialized link between citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all, and whereas professional municipal clerks serve as the information center on functions of local government and community, and whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk, you got that enough times in there, through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, county and international professional organizations, and where it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk. Now therefore, I, David Nold, Mayor of the City of Oconomowoc, do proclaim the week of May 5th through May 11th, 2019 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our professional municipal clerk, Diane Conan, and to all professional municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Great job.
I
Bring a
enjoy
load
it,
of paper
every minute
clips.
of it.
Next item is the motion to adjourn.
Move to
Yes, I
adjourn?
got that motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we had a motion over here, we had a second.